Getting into One Piece is a nightmare. Hello, One Piece enthusiasts. I'm the One Piece nerd, and today let's talk about why it's a nightmare to get into One Piece for newer viewers. Now, before you jump the gun at me, I just wanna say, look, I know the story is one of the best fictions ever written, one of the greatest stories ever written, with so many intricacies, with so many plot devices, so many amazing characters and cast. But for all the nuanced details that One Piece has, and it still keeps us going for like 1,000+ chapters, 25 years. For new readers, it's actually very hard if you think about it. Now, I've actually recommended this series to a few of my friends over the past years, and the first person I recommended One Piece to, my friend actually sort of hesitated at first. He wasn't really invested up until I think Alabasta, where he just started picking the pace, and now he loves the story, and he binged almost entirely from Alabasta to, I think, what was at that time Whole Cake Island. So you can see that, yeah, some people are still hooked. And then recently it's like I did that 5 to 6 years ago, and now I recently started doing with a couple of more of my friends. They sort of went through around 150, 200 chapters, but they never really got enticed with the plot. There are a lot of reasons for that. Number one, it's because of how much time Oda takes in order to develop his story. That's not inherently a bad thing, and I won't even blame Oda for it. And the second reason is the stories nowadays are way too fast-paced for people to sort of have the patience and go through every little plot point, every little detail that Oda has sprinkled all throughout the story of 25 years. So, to what I have to say, I'll address the second part first, because that's more intriguing. Because if you think about the mainstream shonen that has been running from like the last 10 years or whatever, you have stories like My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, Black Clover. These stories sort of go fast-paced, right? They aren't inherently the best stories, but it's still fast-paced because it gets to the action quite immediately. We're introduced to the main villain, or either we're introduced to like some sort of a conflict, and that's what keeps the story going right from the get-go. But from One Piece, it's never really the case. So stories nowadays like Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, primarily in the shonen world, are still very fast-paced. So for newer readers who didn't give One Piece a shot, who've been reading shonen, for them it's actually very hard, because considering people's attention span in these days, I don't expect anyone to have the patience to go through One Piece, because honestly, it's a huge mountain to climb and it gets hard. So aside from that, now we can talk about Oda's world building and the amount of time he's taken to build up his story. Remember, the time when One Piece started was exactly when Naruto started, DBZ ended, and Bleach started. All of these writers, and maybe even Hunter x Hunter if I remember correctly, but these big three, especially the big three, they took their time. They took their time to develop their story throughout a long period of time, and then they plotted out everything, and that's how stories like Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece were born. And then again, we can have controversial opinions about the ending of Bleach and also Naruto, but point is, time was given to those stories in order for the writers to actually flesh out everything they wanted to flesh out, regardless of how they handled it at the end. My point being, when the story started back at the early 1990s, or maybe even the late 1990s, that time it was a phase where there weren't that many stories, there weren't that many manga, that many anime, which gave stories like these three to basically take the amount of time they needed. It gave the authors enough time to do what they needed to do, flesh out their characters, take as much time as they want, because people aren't going anywhere. When you don't have things to watch, and only have a few things to watch, you'd watch those few things. So that gave Oda an excuse to make his story bigger. And in this day and age, obviously, it's not gonna work. If you start to write a story or make a manga where you're taking your sweet time to build your story over the next, 10, 20 chapters, people will hate it. It's either you do something from chapter 1 or chapter 2, or the readers basically stop reading. That's how the world of today's manga work. This is exactly why Shonen Jump is looking for stories that end quickly. They have fast-paced plots, not too long, not too much of a build-up, and they want to end it quickly. That's how the meta is right now. So, with all that being said, yeah, it's an excuse for the readers nowadays to basically not give their time, invest their time into One Piece, because there are hundreds of other shows and series that they can finish within the time they can finish One Piece. And then again, there was a reason why Oda took 25 years to build whatever he built. Even for us right now, Wano took a long time to finish, but ever since Wano, it's starting to get fast-paced. It's starting to feel like the pacing has been picked up by Oda. Now he can do whatever he wants to do, now that he's set up his dream plot. Now, after 1,050 chapters, is where Oda feels like, now I can go at my pace. I want to do things fast. I can do things fast because everything's so already set up. What he's doing right now is basically what Jujutsu Kaisen or Chainsaw Man has been doing from chapter 1. So you see where my point is. Oda took his sweet time to build up everything, but trust me, that time he's given to this narrative is enough to make the story into one of the greatest stories ever made, because everything is so interconnected. Yeah, it's possible for authors to do it in the span of 25 chapters, if not 25 years, to do the same setting that Oda did. But the feeling, the scale of at which Oda did it, it's so drastic that once you start reading it, once you catch up, it'll all make sense to you. He's basically put up plot devices all throughout the story, and for them to be unraveled time after time and plot after plot, and it entices the reader to keep going. I think that's a genius marketing tool. If you have a fixed-based audience that will watch your content, read your content no matter what, it's better if now your goal is to keep them going. How do you keep the readers enticed into your story? You create mysteries. You have mysteries, you reveal one mystery, and then you make another. That's how the story of a long-running show goes. I think a lot of us could agree to that. So, point being, you gotta give your time to One Piece. Now, then again, the starting of One Piece isn't as bad as I say it is, because Arlong Park was huge for me, Baratie was amazing, and Little Garden was also amazing. These stories are sort of like, I'm not gonna mention Romance Dawn. If you start with the manga, yeah, Romance Dawn was amazing. Romance Dawn with Shanks sacrificing his arm, yeah, it all makes a lot of sense. It was actually very good. So from Romance Dawn, and then you move to Baratie, you move to Fishman Island, sorry, not Fishman Island, you move to Arlong Park. These arcs are fantastic, and I would say it makes for a very good starting for a show of that age. Now, another reason why people are so let down when starting the story is the hype that's been created around the show. One Piece has been around for 25 years, the internet is now a thing, and we're basically bragging about it left and right. People cannot avoid it. Yeah, they might have not have spoilers, but the hype the fan base has basically shown, it's too much for them to handle. They have an expectation that the story gets to the hype it does from the get-go, which is wrong. It took a long time for the show to get as hyped as we are right now. So I would say everything starts to get interesting after chapter 200, which is where the major antagonist gets introduced. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's right after Alabasta. Alabasta was interesting, but for people nowadays who have sophisticated taste, who doesn't like the simple idea of the main guy being the bad guy, Alabasta is where a key member of the Straw Hats gets introduced, and where you have a lot of lore drops after that. Everything from that point onwards is all about building mysteries and then adding on those mysteries to make it better. So I would say you're gonna have to take a lot of time. You have to give it a lot of time, but trust me, I haven't seen one single reader of One Piece complain about One Piece after they got through Alabasta. You finish Alabasta, you get to Jaya. Jaya is what makes everything turn its head upside down. Not literally, but once you get there, you will know. You will know when you get to Jaya. And that's a promise to me. Like, I'm not gonna say wait around until 500 chapters and then you're gonna see amazing stuff. No, it's gonna happen. In fact, it happens in Alabasta. You give it enough time, Alabasta is when a lot of things start to unravel, and then Jaya is just a step forward, and everything after that is basically building on that mystery. Everything gets complicated. It's very basic at first, because remember, the Straw Hats are a giant crew. It's a group of 10, by the way. So building those 10 people up, hyping them up, giving them character growth, giving them an introduction, So everything takes time, and all it took is good time, but trust me, the payoff is worth it. I say give One Piece a shot. You gotta be a little patient about it. Not everything will go according to your ideas. It's going to be very slow, it's gonna be a grind. But once that grind is over, it's going to be one of the best shows you've ever read. And I can guarantee you that. If you guys, after reading 500, 600 chapters, tell me that One Piece is not interesting, I will argue head on. I will say that I'm pointing this out. After you finish around roughly 300, 400 chapters, you get through the Alabasta arc, you move to Jaya, you read Water 7, you go to Enies Lobby, you will not say One Piece is boring. You will never say that. That's it for the video. Honestly, if you guys agree with me, let me know. If you guys disagree with me, also let me know. But this is something I had to put out to the world because, well, I sort of hate it when people drop One Piece because of its length, because of the hype that exists around it, which is not a reality in the first couple of hundred chapters. But honestly, I wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't great. It wouldn't be the best-selling manga on the planet if it wasn't great. It wouldn't make 500 million sales if it wasn't great. Trust my words, start reading it, give it enough time, you will love it. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, peace.